From the art of the deal to keeping it real. Live from the Simply Vegas studios, it's The Power Move with John Gafford.
Back again for another episode of this week's Power Move. Today, joining the studio, man, I got some ballers up in here today. I'm not going to lie. I got some ballers. No Colt, no Chris, but, you know, can't always, every day can't be Halloween. Today, you just got me, and, but I brought in some friends, man, to spread some knowledge, spread some joy, spread some wisdom to the people out there. So, two special guests today in the hot seat. First of all, I want to introduce one of my friends, one of the guys I met at Mastermind that I love, and he's just such a great dude. And he's the guy that, like, if you want to invest in something, if you're like, hey, let me take a look at something, this is the cat that you kind of run it by. And he looks at it in 2 seconds and goes, no, this is bullshit. Don't do this. And that's Mr. Tony Kassei, who runs his Mastermind. We'll talk about that, which is your deal. Yeah. So, Tony, welcome, man. Welcome.
Thanks, man. Thank you for having us here in Vegas, man. This is a cool little spot. It's a very cool little spot.
Sorry, we had an additional camera in front of a camera that we were doing there, which was not good, so I had to do that. Yeah, thanks for having you on. And you brought with us a new friend of mine that I met yesterday at a dinner last night. Well, you know, once a friend, always a friend. You go to dinner, we're good, and that's Mr. Steve Kuclo, who is a 5-time IFB bodybuilding champion.
Yes, sir.
Which means you eat good and you pick up heavy stuff.
Pretty much.
That's how it works. But again, man, you know, that's one of those things where it's the lessons you learn through all of those things, through both of those. And you guys both have some stories of some struggle and coming through some adversity and things. And I think that, you know, obviously there's lessons and there's clues that get left behind that we like to help the people out as much as we can. So I'm going to start. We're going to do a double up today. We're double up. And just for you guys out there, a little secret behind the scenes. We're just pinched for time. So this was supposed to be two podcasts, but we're doing a two for today is how it works. Both of these guys totally worthy of their own segments in their own well. But we're doing the two for today for time's purposes.
In a non-sexual way.
From California, man. I mean, it's early, so you know,
and we're in Vegas.
Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what's going to happen? But Tony, let's start with you, dude, because I know that you got a killer story, man, and you had some serious adversity. Things were good, then things were bad, and then things are good again. So walk me through, man. We don't have to go back to kindergarten.
Yeah.
But let's start where picks up in the business world. When did you first get started in business? What was your this is the first question I ask everybody. Yeah. What was your first hustle, man? This can't be a kid answer.
Dude, I loved selling that lemonade stand. My first dream was that little Fisher Price machine that you put in a little plastic coin, and I just loved money as a kid, and all the movies about Wall Street, from the very first Wall Street movies, just anything about money excited me. We immigrated to this country, moved to Dallas. Or actually, back then it was a shithole called
from Iran. Yeah, you came from Iran.
Yeah,
yes?
Yeah. Back then it was a cool country, and now lunatics have taken over. But but yeah, man, growing up, watching your parents kind of put every last dime into their children and sacrifice a lot, so you really appreciated that. Moved to Socialist Republic of California when I was 15. And now I still live in California.
But that first hustle as a kid was the lemonade stand?
The lemonade stand.
That was the first one. What about you, Steve? What was the first hustle? What was it?
Cutting grass and killing bugs.
Killing bugs.
Yeah, my football coach in high school had a pest control company, and he brought me on, and I kind of mentored under him, worked under him for many years. So he kind of gave me that entrepreneur spirit. I could contribute a lot to him.
Did you take it to like the Huckleberry Finn thing where you started recruiting your friends to like, hey, dude, I'll pay you $3 an hour to cut this grass when you're making $6? Did you pull that off?
No, I didn't.
No scale.
No. Didn't have that. I didn't have Tony on my side. I didn't have the power move to listen to.
Tony would have taken one. Tony would have taken one look at that business plan and be like, "No, this is bullshit. You want to do this? You know what I mean? Killing bugs is for nobody." But Tony, man, so you started in finance relatively young, right?
Yeah. So we, if you ever seen the movie Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, very accurate depiction of my life, and the movie was actually one of those movies that was really dead on. He gets started at Dean Witter, which was Morgan Stanley. He gets his test. He goes to the World Trade Center. I was in the building about a week before the planes came in, and I was supposed to move there. I got my licenses. I was pumped. I was the youngest kid at Morgan at 21, and I was a superstar. I was the youngest one there, and met my future business partner there, and we stayed partners for about 15, 20 years, and kind of went to LPL, Citigroup, went them all, and then started my own firm.
Wow. All right, cool. So how old were you when you started your own firm? How old were you then?
I started Oregon at 21. Started my own firm probably about 31.
So 31. So 10 years. So you did 10 years into the big thing, and then you went on your own way.
Yep.
So things were going pretty good for you at 31, yes?
Yep.
Doing pretty well.
I went through the recession. I made, just like everybody else, I bought a restaurant. Thought it'd be great to own a bar. It wasn't.
Dude, why do people think restaurants are fun? Like I spent a solid 15 years in the restaurant business, man. I promise you, there's nothing
fun.
No, well, here's the deal.
Nothing glamorous about it.
Well, here's the problem. This is what I found. If you own a restaurant or bar, and I own some cool stuff, the cooler it is, the less money you make. It's kind of how it works. If it's just, the ones that are just like the rundown kind of place with the board that says hamburger cheese, they're making money. Yep. They're printing money. But fancier it is, harder it is to make money.
Millionaire next door, right?
Yeah. Because you either got to be, although we'll say one of the smartest things I ever saw anybody do. And this is a funny story real quick. I'll digress from our conversation. So a buddy of mine named Jeff Hansen in Tallahassee, Florida, a million years ago, he was one of the bar owners there. I owned a bar there. And Jeff, who wound up later in life becoming the manager for Creed, which was funny, but Jeff had the best hustle ever. So we had 2 locations, right? And all the Florida State College kids would go home for like the summer, right? And then Jeff would like move all of his crap from one location to the other one. And then they would come home, they would come back for fall. It'd be like, brand new bar. Just you open it up, brand new bar. And all the kids were like, oh my God, there's a new club. And it was just the same light and sound, everything else. Paint the walls a little different and just be the new bar. And then right towards the end of the semester, it'd be like, start leaking it out. Things aren't going so well. We're going to close down. And then right before the semester was over, it'd be like, it's the last 3 nights ever of Metropolis or whatever. And it would be packed for like the 3 nights before they went home. They would go home for Christmas. He'd move all the shit to the other building. They come back for spring, brand new bar. So he was always either brand new or like about to go out of business. And he just was packed and just bounced back and forth between these 2 spots for years. It was genius.
Like those furniture liquidation places that are always going out of business.
The day they open, they're going out of business. Yeah, the day they open, going out of business is how it is. So you took off on your own firm, and that's doing well at 31. That's going well. So
everything was going great. My business partner at the time, he had right after the recession hit, and in Southern California, you were getting these $700,000 houses being foreclosed for $130,000, $150,000. So he had this vision to start buying them using first trust deeds, using some of our old clients, rolled them self-directed IRAs. He resigned his licenses. I still had a passion for the business. Kind of went our separate ways. Fast forward a few years later, dude's got like $30-40 million worth of real estate. And I'm like, shit, I should have been doing that because I was breaking $300,000-400,000. Back then, I didn't really know how to market. You couldn't use social media, and I didn't have wealthy family or a network to tap into. So I was really just grinding to make it into that industry. And the average financial advisor is only making $300,000-400,000. I mean, to get to the upper echelon, you really got to put some time in. So long story longer, one day one of our employees comes to us. And during that time period, I'd refer him business, he'd refer me. And I started kind of, my mom, half her life savings. She's like, I'm like, well, fuck, invest it with Francisco. Well, I call him Fuckface, but invest it with Fuckface. Can we first? Sorry,
wait, that's not his God-given name. That wasn't on the actual.
Funny story on that. The grand lady. So this grandma who lost money with them. She was 86 years old. She goes, Tony, I've never cursed in my life, but I refer to him as Fuckface. She's on the stand and refers to him as Fuckface.
Yeah, when you get an old lady cursing,
you're allowed
that's a problem.
You're a real winner.
That's a challenge.
So yeah, man. So we started doing some business together, and I thought I had about $5-6 million worth of real estate with them because we'd be buying shit together. Yeah. Families referred to him. I referred to him about $5-6 million worth of clients' assets. And one day, one of our employees comes to us and says, comes to me and says, I need to talk to you. And usually when an employee says that, they want to borrow money. In this case, he starts crying and he says, it's a Ponzi scheme. I'm like, how's that possible? I've seen the tenants. He's like, yeah, but 10 people think they own the same house. So, that's, if you've ever had those moments where you just want to throw up, I literally threw up.
Yeah.
I just went to the bathroom.
So, okay. So you get that piece of news. And, I mean, that's a level 10 issue, I would say. But I think in business, we all get problems. Yeah. How do you process that information and get to a point where you can make a logical, decent, decision-based path forward? Like, what is that? Like, do you take it? Did you wallow in it for like a day or two? Did you fucking booze yourself to pieces? I mean, like, what was the process
go to Vegas?
Of getting to where you can make a logical, decision? What was it?
Yeah. No, I wish I could say that it was that quick, man. That it was 1 or 2 days, know. But when you came from nothing and then you thought you had it, and when you grow up poor, you don't know you're poor. Everybody's playing stickball on the street, you know. But when you have money and then you look back, you're like, oh shit, we were poor. But then when you lose everything, then you're like, oh shit, I don't want to be poor. But I do remember, like, you know, when it happened, I just knew if this is true, I need to find the tallest building and just jump off, because it's not just me. It's not losing your own money is one thing, but when you have to look into people's eyes and to know that they're just, you have to deliver this news. You lose money to a bad investment like we've all done, it's a bad investment. But when it's just fraud and pure greed and evil, that shit really hurts my soul, you know? And so to know, I knew that if that was true, it wasn't just my clients, because my clients maybe lost 10, 20% with them. He took every penny from some of his victims, like every penny. And this shit was devastating, dude. So, no, man, there was about 3-4 years, really dark times. We were talking about this last night with a good friend of ours, Tommy Vex, who's more of a sober coach now. And he was, you know, he confided in me a lot and kind of just gave me some things that really made me realize like the trajectory that I went through. But no, man, for 3 or 4 years, I did everything I could to hurt myself physically. But I always say I have a army of guardian angels that I owe, because I would put myself in a car, drive 130 miles an hour, blasted, hoping that I would either die or get pulled over, and shame on me that I was putting other people in jeopardy. Nothing ever happened. So, somebody out there was looking out for me, and now that's kind of the mission to share. Let
me ask this, and you don't have to get too deep if you don't want to, but did you find some redemption in making some people whole out of that?
In 2 ways. One,
because I know you and I have had conversations about the importance of, even if you're the mouthpiece, it's your responsibility to make people whole. And we both taken some pretty decent hits from that. So
there's certain clients that I knew, you know, they're 89 years old. This $500 a month that he'd promised them was everything they could do. So there's, to this day, you know, there's sometimes that I would drive myself all the way down to make those payments for him, even though I didn't have to. I was not required to. Nobody sued me. None of that stuff happened to me. But I think the path forward for me, my mom one day said, you know, how do you get out of bed every day knowing you just lost everything plus $5 million of your own? And I said, maybe God did this to me today, so one day it saves me $50 million in a bigger lesson. Now, while that hasn't manifested itself in those big of a numbers, it is in this movement between Insider Investor Club, partnering up with people like Steve, spreading a message of just, man, these, you and I see right now on Facebook, fucking Facebook automation, Spotify automation, all this bullshit that you just look at them like, dude, these are scams, and people are handing over billions of dollars to these assholes. So that's sometimes I call out big people, and I'm like, dude, it's bullshit what these guys are doing.
Well, I love that. We talked last night about, we won't name names, but you and I were in an event where, quote unquote, you know, real estate guru, which is, you know, that's my house. That's my wheelhouse. That's what I do. I take the personality. And, you know, I don't have a TV show yet, but, you know, it's one of those things where I'm like, and this guy might not actually know what the fuck he's talking about. And you called him out. You literally stood up in the stage and called them. We're not naming names, no names.
The shows on TV that you see, like, you know, flipping shit. But 50 of them, right? But those guys don't know shit about real estate. And
you called this dude out.
People.
You called this dude out from the stage, and he didn't know what his own offering was, and it was pretty funny, man. It was. You know, I find personally, and this is always my first red flag. You said something a minute ago that you hear a lot, especially like in real estate with some of the creative stuff, when it's like, well, it'd be better if you didn't have a license. It's like, when I hear that, that's a little bit of a red flag that jumps up, and you're like, well, no, I kept my securities license. My other guy let it go. So it's like, that's, if anybody ever says to you in a business deal, like, don't worry, I gave up my license, so it's fine, that's probably a problem. Would you agree with that?
Did you give it up, or was it taken?
No, exactly. Did you voluntarily dig it up, or was it just marked, you know, deleted one day?
I will be honest with you guys, though, man. I had the hardest licenses to get, the 7, 24, 66. Like, I could license you to be a financial advisor on anybody. And another thing, and this is another show, another segment, we can digress, but all these organizations, the 3-letter acronyms, SEC, FINRA, they're not there to protect the investors. This is all some bullshit pyramid scheme of hierarchy of, you know, the 5 top firms, Merrill, Morgan, Goldman. It's just one big financial mafia, as I called it. All the things that I'm talking about right now, I'd be banned, or I'd get fired, or I'd get censured. So I literally told FINRA to fuck off in a meeting. And I said, you can have my licenses, because I want to be able to share this message. Because otherwise, I'd write a book and it would come back censored from the firm. I'm like, dude, it's like Susie Orman wrote the book. It's not even me, you know? And you couldn't talk about those things that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So Obviously being in that place, man, part of a big part of the messaging here is trying to help people escape the drift. So when you've lost everything, you've done that. I mean, I know we talked about you talking to Tony Vexton and that, and him kind of getting you back on the path. What are, and we talked a lot about depression on the show as well. It's about how you get out of those funk moods and those periods of time when you're in a funk. It's like, what did you start to grab onto to start building momentum to putting this back together?
As cheesy as it sounds, this whole concept, especially when now people say, what do you invest in? If I have $10,000, what do I'm sure people ask, if I have $50,000, what should I buy? Like, if that's all you got, invest in yourself. And it sounds weird to say, but personal development, putting myself in the right rooms, proximity is power. These are all little buzzwords we hear in our industry. But man, it was true, and one of my first mentors, Ryan Stewman, who we both know, he said something to me that really resonated. When he first heard my story, and I didn't know who the hell he was. God put me in a moment that I ended up on a private jet in Cabo with the last few $1,000s in my pocket.
You stayed at Casa Cabo?
Yes, in Pedregal.
Yeah. I love that house so much. I've stayed at that house twice. I love that house.
Dude, imagine, I've just lost everything. These people think I'm ballers. The requirement was to be $2 millionaire. Somehow I end up, and that's a whole other story of how I end up on the trip. I'm on the trip. I'm there with Steve Weatherford, Super Bowl champ. Yeah. I meet him for the first time on the plane. I got Stewman, who I had no idea who he was. So I'm starting to realize, these people are interested in my story. I still had lessons to teach, but he said something to me. He says, man, after he listens to it, and in Stewman's way, he's like, bro, I'm a double felon, divorced 3 times. If I can't get a fucking job at McDonald's, what's your excuse? And I was like, fair enough. I couldn't debate that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that the path out of depression, path out of what do I do now? What's my next chapter? We talked about this on a podcast with Ulysses today. Waylon said something to me on one of those Cabo trips too. And he says, man, I just turned the page. And what if your whole life's a story and you just turn the page and you can write a new book tomorrow? Yeah. That shit was so simple, but it resonated.
Yeah.
Man.
It was a line from I know where it's from. Not necessarily that version of that, but it was from Young Guns, man. Kiefer Sutherland says at one point to the Asian lady that's the concubine to the bad guy or whatever, he says, your past is like a paper book novel. When you're done with it, you throw it away and buy a new one.
I didn't know that.
And it's the same thing. Yeah. So not to say that Waylon plagiarized that.
He put his own spin.
We all take each other's shit.
Exactly. It's funny that you say that. And I talk about frequency a lot with people and frequency with who you listen to. Because at the end of the day, it's funny you said we all steal from each other. Because that is true. You hear the same thing. There's stuff that there's days when I've posted stuff and then 2 days later I see it essentially come up, reworded a little bit from somebody else. And I'm like, and everybody kind of borrows, but I think it's okay because I think in the framework of trying to help people, you find a frequency that works with you. You find a frequency that resonates with you. And you can kick somebody in the nuts all you want, but if you're not resonating with them, you probably had people tell you, Tony, you need to turn it around. You need to pick it up. You need to pull this together. But for whatever reason, it just happened to be Stewman that was on that frequency with you that you heard that.
Correct. And I think the authentic gurus, for lack of a better word, right? If they're intentional or if their intention is to do good, they don't mind if you spread the same message. You were talking to Waylon and he started in his thing and he says, I'm really following your path. And he says, take my shit, copy it,
my shit.
So if you're not afraid, your integrity in what you do with your real estate business, you want to share it. You're like, fuck it, I know how to make money. Let me show other people how to do it, right?
Well, I think that's the mentality of understanding that it's not a zero-sum game.
Right.
I don't have to lose for you to win. It doesn't have to work that way. Right. And I think it's funny when you look at a lot of people that come up from humble beginnings. They go through this process where it's this mine. And I've seen some people go and make a shit ton of money in real estate and do very, very well. And it's like, but what are you doing for somebody else? Are you reaching back as you strive forward? Are you doing that? And I've seen people that make a lot of money in this business that are very unhappy.
Yep. Right.
They never get fulfilled in it because they're not reaching back to help somebody else get forward. So, and I think that's anything. I think the people that are really trying to help in this, education, investment, health, whatever it is you're doing, there's people that are out for a quick buck and there's people that really want to help people.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's a huge difference. So how do you tell the difference, Tony? You're the bullshit sniffer. I love it. How do you tell the difference?
I think there's a lot of red flags, and I think when you've been around the block a few times, it's, when somebody's constantly telling you they're not something, you know what I mean?
I'm not here to sell you.
I'm not here to sell you. There's no pitch at this event, but run to the back and buy 5 of them and I'll give you the 6th free. Get the fuck out of here. So there's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of, I always tell, I have a lot of girlfriends who are single or going through a divorce, and always I got sob stories, and somehow I become the therapist. My therapist said I'm on white knight syndrome. I'm like Captain Save-A-Ho or something. I don't know. But
Tony, you bleached the red flags, I call it.
But no, I always tell people, if you look at someone's life, their socials or whatever they are in their public persona, and they don't have a lot of friends from 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, that's a fucking red flag, because that tells you that these people are recycling and churning their business friendships, relationships. First time I met you, he's introducing his mom, dad, his cousins, childhood friends. You look at my lifestyle, like I got friends from when I was 5, 10, 15, 20. You like you guys got a core group, and that's why I was really aligned to, Fleischman. I look at him like one of the dudes that I've idolized, fanboyed from when I was like 20 years ago playing Commerce Casino, and I didn't know who the hell he was. Funny story about him. I'm playing poker with the guy. I didn't know who he was. Thought he was some nerd at a table. He's telling us to buy Ethereum at 37 cents. I'm like, who the fuck would buy a coin for 37 cents? Wrote him off. 20 years later, I hit him up about it. He remembered the exact hand that he cracked me on, dude.
I will say that. I'll say that about Fleischman, man. His memory is terrifyingly good.
But
it's terrifyingly
good. To answer your question, it's the people, you are who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
You hang out with 5 alcoholics, you'll be the 6th. So I've learned that. I've tried to really align. Steve showed me that a lot too, with faith and being around good people that are spiritually grounded.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny you say that, because the 5 friends, and you talk about people that are around new people, and that's a red flag for me too. Like I've been to parties with very successful people where I got invited, and they're like, "Oh, this is my best friend." You're like, "Oh, what's up, bro?" And you're casually off to the side, like, "How you guys know? High school?" Like, he's like, "No, bro, I met him like 6 months ago." And I'm like, "Huh?" He just described himself as your best friend, and you know him for 6 months. Like, my best friend, went to camp with me and shit, right? It's like that's kind of how that went, right? Saw me do some really stupid shit as an adolescent. So
the other guy we spoke about last night too, on the crypto side, same thing. If you think about it in hindsight, didn't have a lot of friends from the old days.
Yeah,
that's think about it.
No, that's true. That's true. I think.
Well, I missed that red flag.
But I'll tell you another one that I hang my hat on. This is a little controversial with some people, because I understand maybe some shit happens. I don't like to do business with people that cheat on their spouses, because I think if they'll fuck them up, and literally almost every single person that's ever fucked me over in business cheats on their spouse. And did it in front of me in some cases.
And we supported it at the time. And for me, fuckface, I remember, the dude had been married for 20 years.
Yeah.
Married for 20 years. His wife was an attorney. She put him through school. He got here as a dishwasher, worked at Denny's, and he had 2 beautiful boys. And I would see him have this life and then go out. We go to strip club. He's banging hookers in the back, has a mistress with the mistress. And at the time, I was just like, it's just a guy being a guy. Maybe it's just his culture. But if you're going to cheat on your wife of 20 years with 2 young boys, who the fuck am I? Of course you're going to cheat on me.
Yeah, of course. I mean? Of course.
Boy.
Of course. Yeah. So, yeah, man. And it sucks when people that comes out, that happens, because, you're like, try to do the, I'll walk in another, I'm not going to, I don't know what their life is like. I don't know what's happening to this. But at the same time, it's like, you got to throw that caution flag up pretty hard.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So, Steve, man, let's talk to you a little bit.
Bring it.
Yeah, because, dude, you're just sitting there looking swole and whatnot. It's so funny, because normally when I have 2 people on the couch like this, they're both kind of in frame, but you're just ginormous stuff. Like, I got half of Tony's face on. Like,
you want to sit his lap?
Like half of his face rolling, because he just keeps leaning farther and farther away. I think it's like you have a gravitational pull, and he's trying to resist it. That's kind of what's going on. So let's talk about your story, bro. Yeah. I know you were a firefighter. I know that's where it kind of started. So is that what you always, when you were a kid, like, I want to be a firefighter? Was that the goal? Was that the dream?
No, I was actually, loved athletics growing up. Very successful in athletics, national champion in hockey. Actually got in the Hockey Hall of Fame as a youth.
Where did you play?
Up in Michigan. I grew up in Detroit area.
Really? I lived for a very short amount of time. I lived in Detroit.
Okay. Yeah, East Side.
I lived at 13 Mile and Ferris in Royal Oak.
Okay.
Yeah. I got transferred in a much younger version of me, in a mid-20s version of me. I was upper management for Hooters of America, which is a fucking great job when you're 24. It was a great job when you're 24. Again, didn't make a lot of money doing it, but it was a great job. And at one point, I got moved up to Michigan to run all those restaurants there. And I was from Florida. First time I'd ever lived anywhere where it snowed. Not fun.
No.
Sky went gray in probably September and stayed gray until April.
It's 7 months of depression.
Yeah. I spent
It's cyclical.
I spent the winter there. I called my boss, who was the vice president. I said, let me tell you a story about a guy named John. He said, what's that? And I said, I'm moving back to Orlando or Atlanta in 2 weeks. And he goes, you're quitting? I go, that all depends on you. But I'm telling you, I'm moving back to one of those two places in 2 weeks. And he's like, fuck, let me call you back. He's like, Orlando. I'm like, come out here. And normally it was funny because I went all over the country with that company. And when I would leave a place, I'd be like to the girls, I'm like, oh, I'll come back and visit you guys. I'll see. When I left Detroit, I'm like, I won't book a fucking flight over this city. If the flight path is going over this, I'm going to take a connection so I can get around. I've heard it's changed a lot. I heard there's a lot. It's a lot different in Detroit. But,
a little bit.
But we'll go. Okay. Yeah. I heard you wouldn't even recognize it. It's a beautiful place now is what I hear. I mean, still the gray skies, but I hear that they built it up to minutes. But okay.
It's like waxing your armpit. It's still an armpit.
It's still an armpit. Okay. Fair. I had good times in Windsor. That was fun. Over the bridge in Windsor was good. There you go. Right. Anyway, so grew up in Detroit, played hockey.
Yeah, I was big in athletics.
I mean, fuck, doesn't that kind of tell you everything you need to know right there about the guy just going into it?
Yeah. And very successful in that. I could have pursued professional sports on that route. Loved training. Training was that became a true passion of mine. Yeah. I loved like being the biggest, strongest, fastest guy, no matter what I did. I played football in high school. In hockey, I loved being.
You couldn't have been this big playing hockey, though.
No. Okay, I mean, I was genetically a big kid. So it wasn't like I was a 150-pound kid that got picked on in school and decided like, I'm going to take a bunch of steroids and get huge. Like that wasn't.
You got the ad in the back of the magazine where they're kicking sand in your face.
No, I wasn't that guy. I was like, I had a purpose and an intention of like why I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I just responded really well, and I was like, I was one of the strongest guys. I just had success in that area.
Yeah.
I was actually going to school to be a mechanical engineer in the automotive world.
Back up real quick. You mentioned the east side of St. Louis.
Detroit.
Okay, of Detroit. Sorry.
Yeah.
So you're talking about like
13 in Gratiot. You said 13.
Okay, 13 in Gratiot. Okay, all right. So you're talking about like Roseville. You're talking about like
Shores, Roseville. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. All right. So you not exactly the mean streets, the roll 'em up.
No, I actually went to high school on 8 Mile, so a lot of people were like, "Oh, 8 Mile."
Yeah, but way over.
I was in East Detroit in that area.
Okay. Yeah. So East Detroit, nicer part of Detroit, Sterling Heights.
Like okay,
Roseville.
and then I moved to Dallas almost 20 years ago.
All right.
And the ghetto parts of Dallas, I'm like, this is really nice. The nice parts of Detroit are like the ghetto of Dallas.
I could tell you some here. So you're in school for mechanical engineering?
Mechanical engineering.
Did your parents work for the automotive?
No. Blue collar. My mom was a hairdresser. My dad was a chef.
Well, can I ask you a question? Because one of the things that was fascinating to me about Detroit, and we have talked about this at length on this podcast, is the hamster wheel trap that seems to happen to people in that area, where it's like
Midwest.
You are born, you literally go to the same high school that your parents went to, you marry your high school sweetheart,
you work, you play golf,
you buy a house,
in the same zip
you buy a house, three streets away from your parents, next door to your buddy from high school, and you just wash and repeat, and they get stuck.
People from Detroit are going to hate us right now because we're spilling tea out of Detroit.
Yeah, but it was the hardest place I ever lived to make friends. It really was, because like people are like, I already got fucking friends. I got my friend from high school. I don't need more friends. I already got friends. It was like the most difficult place to break into.
Great people. It's blue collar to a T. But
how did you get out?
I just decided to make the move. Well, so I'll finish my story about going to school to be a mechanical engineer. My grandfather was in the automotive industry, a designer, draftsman. I was like, I love vehicles, love race cars. I had that passion too. During that time, the automotive industry was just tanking. It was when they were laying off 3, 5, 10,000 people at a time. And I'm like, why am I going to school to try to fight for a job that I'm not going to have?
Yeah.
It's not going to be there.
Yeah.
So I went to my parents one day. I had some friends in the fire service, and I loved learning about the body as well. And I said to my mom, I said, I want to go be a firefighter paramedic, And so then I put myself through school, applied all over the U.S. It was still a difficult time because it was kind of going into the 2004 or 5 where everything was just starting to decline. Ended up getting hired for the city of Dallas in 06. So moved down there, started a career in, it was at the same time pursuing bodybuilding at higher levels. Started off in like winning some pretty big shows as a teenager, teen nationals. That led into some national level shows, winning the overall at a very young age.
Well, I want to talk. Don't skip over that because I think here's the deal, dude.
Yeah.
Look, I don't. Obviously, you can tell I know everything about bodybuilding just from the fucking rip.
You're like a Greek guy over here.
Exactly.
Come on,
chisel. But the point is, like, the level of dedication that you have to that. I mean, dude, ice cream tastes good. Brownies are good.
You're right.
Fried chicken, delicious. But to just have the dedication to forget the hours in the gym and everything else, but just the complete dedication to the diet. That is a level of commitment that most people just don't possess.
Right.
So the question is, is that innate or is that learned or is that decided? Like, how do you get to that level of commitment to, fucking anything?
I think it's a little bit of each one of those. It's definitely decided because you have to make the decision to do it or not.
Yeah.
It's kind of in you. I think if you have that drive and that discipline, I think it comes from your childhood. Were you disciplined as a kid? Like, where did your parents discipline you to not do something stupid, or not hurt yourself? So I think there's a few aspects of all those into becoming ultra disciplined or being willing to make sacrifice to have success.
Were there moments of great adversity through your life as a kid, or were they manufactured adversity through sports? Which is why I love youth sports. That's why I love it.
It was more sport driven. Like I had a very promising future in sports if I wanted to pursue that route. My parents and family were huge supporters of me, and to this day still come to my bodybuilding shows. Biggest fans. Everybody knows me in the industry. Any competition you go to that I'm competing in. I have a huge fan base. My family's there screaming. Like, it's just, I've always had that support system.
Love it.
But yeah, there's been adversity. You don't win every show, you don't win every title, you don't win every championship, you
hear stories like, I came home when I was 10 and my parents were gone and I had to raise myself, and you're like, fuck, well, that didn't happen to me. What's my excuse? But that's why I love, because one of the hardest things, and you're about to be a father for the first time. We talked about last night. Yeah. And I'm telling you, you don't even realize how much you're going to worry about this, but you are going to worry every day about screwing your kid up by just letting them tag along with your lifestyle.
Right.
Like, it's going to be such a concern of yours. And like, I'm so concerned every day that we're screwing our kids up by like, oh, we're going to the beach in Newport. Oh, we're going to take the jet. Oh, it's like, oh my God, am I screwing these kids up? Right. So I love sports. I love athletics because in situations like us where, dude, my kids are never going to have to worry about where their next meal is coming from. They're never going to have to worry about, are we going to lose the house? They're just not going to have to worry about these things. But if I can manufacture any type of adversity to put in front of them through sports, I think it's a good plan. And I think probably some of you had a good upbringing. There's no, crazy stories of, dad comes home and smacks you around. It just doesn't happen. So I think by your early involvement with sports at a very high competitive thing, probably developed that level of commitment that you were able to take into bodybuilding.
Correct. 100%.
Cool. All right. So you're doing well in the shows.
Yeah, so
you're fighting fires, but dude, you're like a superhero. you're like all jacked up and you're like fighting fires. Okay, so
from my first show, people were like,
"Were you doing it in a mask or just no cape?"
No.
Okay, there it is. People see who you are.
A little Speedo. That's all I had. If you Google me, you'll see the Speedo.
Awesome.
Anyways, no, everything kind of led into my bodybuilding. Like you said, the sports, the discipline, it's all kind of funneled into there. And having, from my first show, I had people come up to me like, you have something, and I always thought you had to be the top of the game to get on stage. I always thought you had to be Mr. Olympia to compete. But obviously there's a starting point, entry point in everything, every industry, every sport, you have a starting point. For me, it was success because I did do well. I did win. And that just kind of steamrolled in the industry. At the time, there wasn't social media. It was very magazine driven. There was like internet forums and stuff like that. And I got a lot of notoriety at a young age from my success, and people ask me today, how do I get, sponsored, or how do I do this?
Let's back up. What age? Like 19, like 20?
Yeah, 19,
okay.
20. Yeah.
All right. So, dude, you're yoked. You're 19. People are talking about you. How do you, or was there a phase of complete asshole, Steve?
No.
You never got there?
No, I never was asshole, Steve.
Okay, how?
Because some of the best advice, and I owe this a lot to my football coach, who I told you I worked for in high school, and I saw the way he treated his wife, and I had a lot of great examples. That I'm more of an observer than I am like just do something off the whim. I like to watch people and not overly talk, and definitely like to absorb a lot more. So never had an asshole phase, because one of the best advice I ever heard, and I carried this through my career, because I've been on Flex magazine, the magazines all over the world, been on covers and big titles and all this. And the advice was the same people you see coming up are the same people you see coming down. Mm-hmm. And when your friend from high school, they always say, "Don't forget about us." And there's some truth to that, because you know what, you may get to a point at some time that you're not going to be riding that wave and being like the top of your game, and you're going to come down a little bit. You're going to have that success story, but you're not going to be like in the spotlight.
Yeah.
And in sports especially, you see as soon as somebody stops competing or retires, people forget about them. They're like, fuck them. Like who is it? It's a shame.
Until they show up in bankruptcy court.
Yeah, it's a shame that it's like that. But if those people treated a lot of those people bad along the way, if the athletes, if the popular person, however you want to say it, influencer, was an asshole along the way, like, why is somebody that you treated like shit gonna bring you in and be like, yeah, that's fine, like, you treated me like shit, but we could be friends now? Like, if somebody did it to me, I'm not going to be cool with them.
Let me ask you this, is there big dollars in professional bodybuilding? Doesn't seem like, it seems like you probably have to work way harder than a lot of the other sports.
I think the way you explained it to me from a business model standpoint, that whole industry has shifted now, right?
It has changed because of social media a bit, and you don't have to have accolades now to get sponsorship by companies. If you have a big following, you can get a sponsorship, and they'll pay you six figures for doing stuff. But back in the day, you were a guy that showed up in expos, you shook hands, you traveled, made appearances, and I did that to the last till a couple of years ago, probably pre-COVID. Was every weekend I was making appearances. You go to expos. You
have to do that to keep yourself out there? Or was that just
it's not necessarily a requirement, but it's a requirement in a way to keep your fan base building, and to keep when people get to meet you, like, man, you're really nice. I'm like, what'd you expect? Like, just a big muscly asshole? Like, it's funny. Like, people really think
that's. I didn't think that. I'm not saying I thought. Tony told me you were an asshole.
That's funny. At lunch today, his wife says, when I first met Steve, I was like, I don't want to date an asshole bodybuilder.
I also believe if any woman you ever meets doesn't think you're an asshole when you first met them, you're not going to wind up with
your job right.
Yeah, they gotta hate you. They gotta hate you a little bit when you first start out. So it's gotta work. So now you've taken the IBS, so you took all the bodybuilding, you took the dedication, you took all of that stuff, and you've now kind of turned it into a program, and it's not just about health and fitness. It's not that. I love that when you were telling me about that last night, you're like, look, bro, this isn't just another, let me show you how to get a six-pack. Because we all know.
This is another 90-day challenge.
Yeah. We look, my buddy Brad Lee says that all the time. Everybody knows how to get a six-pack. You just don't want to do the work to get it.
Right.
And that's just how it is. But you've turned it into an event, a mastermind group that is about more than just fitness. So I want you to talk about that, man.
So my vision with things, and being in an industry where I've helped people in bodybuilding, it's crazy because it's a very selfish sport. But at the same time, when you'd meet people and people would come up to you and say, "Man, you saved my life," or "You inspired me to get back in the gym and I lost 100 pounds," like, you'd be like, "Man, that's really rewarding." And also being on the fire side, you save somebody's life and they thank you. You do something, you may not even get thanked. It's a thankless job most of the time. But you did something to help people, and to me, like, that generosity is a core value of mine, and I believe in that. And I'm very much a giver. I love to connect people, but I don't expect anything out of doing those things.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like, I want to create something bigger than me, and I want to be able to pour into people, bring value to people that are going to help them level up all areas of life. Because like you said, somebody may be super rich and doing great in business, but they're miserable at home. Their wife hates them, their kids hate them, or their health is deteriorating daily, those kind of things. And it's like, okay, how do we level up those areas? You know, and an example, as I was telling this to a friend of mine when I was kind of pitching this idea and my vision with this, he's like, you know, I see it. He's like, it was actually Steve Weatherford who's actually speaking at my event. Amazing human being. He's like, it's like a decathlon. He goes, you may be great at one event, but you may suck at all the other ones, and you're never going to win it. But you may get third or fourth place in all the events, and you're going to dominate.
You know, one of the things that I don't even know where I got this. I know I stole it because I didn't come up with it. But one of the things that I do for my team is I have this exercise where I've got 9 spokes on a piece of paper, right? And I say, okay, here's what I want you to do. You take this, and off the top, man, I don't know what all 9 of them are, but it's like faith, family, you know, relationships, you know, spiritual health, you know, all these things. And you write a number between 1 to 9 for each of them, 9 being the highest and 1 being like, I suck, right? And then I have a piece of paper that has all of them out on a thing. And then you draw a dot, however far it is away from that. And then you connect all the dots to make a wheel. And it's amazing. And you look at and everybody's wheels are flat. You know, they have flat sides. Yeah. And it's like, it's a metaphor for life. Like your life won't roll properly if you're not balanced in all areas. Yeah. So I think what you're trying to do and bring balance to all of that stuff. Yeah. Correct?
It's helping people create the best version of themselves. Yeah. And leveling up those areas. I think we all need help. I think if you're like Tony just said, the best investment you can make is in yourself. If you're willing to pay the price to be in the room, to meet somebody, align with people, like, and I spoke on that a little bit last night. Like the alignments in my life have led me to where I am right now. Yeah, it's not based on what I've thought about in my own vision and everything like that. It's been the alignments that I've established in my life that have led me to where I am right now.
Yep. Yeah, I never say no when you know I tell my wife all the time, and you know one of the advantages of living here is. There's always somebody coming into town to do something. There's always somebody, we get a lot of calls, like the one Tony's like, "Hey, come to dinner." I just always say yes because I just always assume there's going to be cool people there, right? and it never disappoints.
That was a cool dinner.
It never disappoints, man. It never disappoints. It never does. So if I'm somebody that you know is looking to you know, man, just maybe change my room a little bit. You know, I like this, and I talk about masterminds a lot, and I'm a member of several, and I've drifted in and out of several of them, and you know, it's good to change the room sometimes, man. It is. It is. So if I'm looking somebody like maybe I'm not getting everything. Maybe I'm not feeling like I'm getting everything out of life. You got an event coming up. Yeah. Talk about the event, dude.
May 26th. It's called Upgraded Human Mastermind. And that's the mastermind that I'm creating, that I'm launching into my group training stuff. That is it's called Upgraded Human. So again, you know, we all need an upgrade. I think if you're okay with where you're at in life, like you're going to decline, and people are just going to pass right by you. So to me, it's like, let's make even if it's just a 1 degree shift into something new or something better. Those small nuggets each day that are going to just build up over and over and over and go just help you. So May 26th, Tony's going to be one of our speakers. I've established, again, I'm a relationship guy, and I have 7 amazing speakers, including myself, to be 8, and my wife speaking. Sean Whalen's a speaker. Jessie Lee's a speaker. Steve Weatherford.
Jesse's awesome.
Jesse's amazing. Right. I got anabolic. So I got a health aspect of things. I got a business aspect of things. I have faith, relationship. Like, we're going to hit on all these areas, and I want people to walk away and be like, man, that was the best $300 or $800 I spent to be in a room with people. And just really like walk away like I feel like a new person.
Man, I got to tell you, all those guys are great. Yeah. And I'm gonna go deep on Jessie Lee right now. If you don't know who she is, Google Boss Lee, look her up, dude. Watching her, who is such an incredible baller, deal with her very public battle with colon cancer right now is fucking amazing. Yeah, it's amazing to watch. She is an amazing human being. And
I think we both are. I mean, I'm a huge fan of hers. Yeah. I think it's a testament to the level of event this is going to be. Yeah. For this being, I mean, this is also his 7th year that he's thrown the Kuclo Classic, which is a qualifier for the Schwarzenegger, which is the next day. So all our event attendees get to come to that event as well. So it's kind of a way to kind of mesh these cultures together, if you will, right?
But I know how much you love oiled up guys.
Oh, fuck's sake. In Speedos. But no, man, I mean, I think it's really cool to, you know, you and I both met in a mastermind. Yeah. We've been involved in several different ones. And each one of them has its strength and weaknesses. But I think what we're doing a little bit different, if I could give you a little bit of credit on this one.
Yeah.
Like, he hits me up yesterday. I mean, we've had a 3-day long session, started in Frisco, came out here. But he says, hey, can I come to your room and talk? Like, I'm tired, man. And he comes in with the notebook, and he's sitting here, and for 2.5 hours, it turns into like deep conversations about, let's just make this the most powerful event that anybody could come to. And I think the biggest differentiation this is going to be when you look at the caliber of speakers, and you just nailed it, and that's why I'm elaborating on this, was Jessie Lee's vulnerability. Tommy Vex talking about coming from like, brother murdered him, to homeless, to now triple platinum recording artist, to being canceled by, mainstream media. Can't get a recording contract, but he's got Trump on speed dial, like, just because he wanted to sing a song.
And bro, I'm not gonna lie. I did some Tommy Vex Googling this morning on the Google machine. I watched some. Dude, his shit is great.
Isn't it awesome?
I've seen
It's
his.
sad. No, you're listening to this. Like, my wife walked in and she's like, "What are you listening to? What is that like? What are you listening to, like Godsmack?" I'm like, "No, it's this cat I was at dinner with last night. That, this is his only outlet for his art, is to put it here because nobody will sign him because he said some political shit."
He had the #1 song on iTunes,
Crazy.
and right now, if you go to Spotify and you say, play me this song by Tommy Vex, it'll play you something else. Like, he's so canceled at such a high level that it's really
all because he
eye-opening.
said he supported Trump.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
And it's
then,
crazy.
The vulnerability there, the vulnerability that he talks about, my story isn't like, hey, man, I'm this Rolex driving McLaren dude. It's like, no, man, I'm still trying to figure shit out. I paid a bigger tax bill last year than most people make in a year, but that's because of the fucking hole I put myself in. So the vulnerability, I think, that somebody can speak at from stage, whether for the first time I heard him in Cabo, it brought me to tears. Dude wins the Super Bowl, puts a gun in his head that night because his father didn't tell him, was like, hey, didn't even say good job. You know what I'm saying? So when you have an event that you can actually pour into people but leave them with an actionable manual, here's the things you're going to do, finances. Here's what you're going to do if you want to improve your faith with your family. So I'm excited, man. May 26th, May 25th is going to be a VIP night at Jerry Jones's private club.
If they want to find out more about the event, how do they find that?
Website, upgradedhumanmastermind.live.
Upgradedhumanmastermind.live. And if they want to find you guys, how do they find you guys? Throw the gram out, dude.
Yeah. For me, it's the Insider Investor. That's on Instagram, probably the easiest. The Insider Investor. And then if you guys want more info on our private mastermind, it's just Insider Investors. We just try to provide value to people. I don't sell shit. We invest in things together. If you and I are going to buy this building together, let's get a good group of people together, cut out the middleman, cut out the bullshit commissions. No finance, acquisition fees, disposition fees, and all this bullshit. Don't get me started.
And how do they find you? Well, I mean, if you're not blocking out the sun, how do they find you?
Same way, social media. I have, I think that's an easy way to access people
always.
now.
Instagram.
At Steve Kuclo, Kuclo. They can, follow, send me a message, anything like that. And then Upgraded Human Mastermind is
good again. Well, gents, I appreciate the time so much today, man. It was a good conversation. I wish we had more time. Unfortunately, I got to drive.
John, one more thing.
We're going to come back.
Shoot, do it.
I actually I always forget about it because I'm so excited about this shit. So I just got a deal on iHeartRadio. My boys who've been on CT 101 out in Cali, on Power 106 with Big Boy in the mornings, and Ryan Seacrest. I mean, these guys are legends in the scene.
Yeah.
But they started a movement about 15 years ago talking about legalization of cannabis when cannabis was illegal everywhere. Mm-hmm. So they have the #1 show on iHeartRadio for 13 years running, 164. They've now honored me to be on every Friday, Financial Fridays, talking about shit like this. I'd love to have you on there.
Yeah, man.
And we can smoke a fake doobie for all the people in Texas.
Dude, man, I gotta tell you. God bless you. You want to smoke? Smoking dope makes me tired and hungry. I'm already tired and hungry. I don't need any help with that, right? I need no help with that. Anyway, well, Jen, thanks so much for coming in. I appreciate it. It was an awesome episode. If you like this, man, give us a like and subscribe. That's my pandering. Give us a follow, hit the notifications, do all that stuff. Whatever, 4-star, 5-star, whatever the highest star thing you can do that. That's fine. Anyway, we'll be back next week with another episode of The Power Move. Thanks, Jazz.
Thank you, brother.
That was fun. Hey, it's John Gafford. If you want to catch up more and see what we're doing, you can always go to thejohngafford.com, where we'll share any links that things we talked about on the show, as well as links to the YouTube where you can watch us live. And if you want to catch up with me on Instagram, you can always follow me at thejohngafford. I'm here. Give me a shout.